Just a quick word of warning before we get going that the following podcast will almost certainly contain spoilers and may also contain strong language and conversations of an adult nature. I'm ready when you are.
Born ready.
Yeah, well, prove it by beginning.
I was born approximately 15 seconds away from being ready. Okay, ready?
Ready.
Cool. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Strong Language and Violent Scenes, the podcast giving a second chance to films that might not deserve them. I'm Mitch Bain, film composer and the founder of ShockStreetHorror.com.
And I'm Andy Stewart. I'm a filmmaker and a journalist and a bunch of other rubbish in between.
So, if you spent any time with the episode on Monday, Minisode 2...
Minisode 2, yes.
Yep, you'll know that we are guestless this week.
Yep, unforeseen circumstances, Mitch,
Yeah.
have rendered us guestless and, well, not alone, but certainly...
Yeah,
better.
a man down. So you had what I'm sure at the time felt like a good idea.
Yeah, it certainly did. I thought the way around that would be to revisit episode 1 and how we decided on the film for episode 1.
So if you didn't hear episode 1, you'll know that
Yeah.
we had a wee draw in Minisode 0, and Andy brought a film to the table for a one-on-one discussion where you made what I believe to be like a fairly compelling case for the merits of Friday the 13th Part 5. Mm-hmm. So
Highly compelling.
absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah, we came up unanimous at the end, so, you know. But, yeah, so you generously suggested that we would kind of flip that, and maybe I would bring one this time. Maybe the one that I had in mind had it been me that came out and draw the first time.
Yeah, I feel that the show must go on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, I know we've said that in the minisode, but I believe it. We have to keep putting these things out.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it seemed like a good move at the time. Now
Yeah.
I'm wishing we'd had a week off.
So, yeah, if you haven't been keeping up, then just to let you know, the film that I went for was, like I said, I believe it was a 2011 release, stateside at least, and it's Joseph Kahn's Detention.
Yeah.
Yeah, the slasher, monster movie, UFO.
But it's none of those things.
It's all of those things.
No, it's not. I don't particularly like this film.
Yeah, no, I think you said in the minisode that you were
yeah.
a little bit... It wasn't something that you would have, of your own volition, ever gone back to.
No, I was apprehensive, to say the least, about coming into this recording. I had no particular desire to go back and watch the film.
Okay.
And if I can humanly avoid it for the rest of my fucking life, I will never watch this film again.
Okay. I might watch it when I get back tonight. So, I mean, I chose this. It was one of those ones that I kind of happened on a little bit after the fact. And it really worked for me from the off. And it's one that I've kind of, like, and I remember watching it the first time and thinking it was pretty good and kind of stumbling my way back to it over and over. And I've kind of developed this weird affection for it over the years.
It certainly strikes me as weird.
But no, I very readily recommend this to people. Yeah, like I'm quite a big fan of it. Although I would say that I haven't seen it in maybe a year or so, maybe a year or two.
Right.
And I rewatched it obviously in advance of doing this. And there's a couple of things that I've spotted that I think have aged not so well. We can get to them. But overall, I think that I got like pretty much the same out of it on 6th or 7th watch or whatever it is.
I can't imagine you sitting down. I can't imagine you sitting in your room watching this with a big smile on your face. I can't imagine you taking any enjoyment from it.
Really?
To me, this film is the cinematic equivalent of a headache.
Okay.
It's so fucking obnoxious. Like, God, I'm irritated that I watched it again. I'm irritated now looking at you smiling at me as a fan of it. Madness. And not in the good way madness, not Buckaroo Banzai madness.
Well, we're gonna get to that as well.
Oh, Jesus.
But so I don't want to go. I don't want to go quite as intensely scene by scene on this as we did with Friday the 13th. Yeah. But I think that we should talk a little bit about the pre-credits. No, not the pre-credits, but the opening scene.
From the get-go, my teeth were on edge. At the mere mention of the band Hoobastank, I wanted to turn it off there and then.
Right, okay.
Because it reminded me about Hoobastank, and that annoyed me.
What?
So that was... Don't you dare quote this film at me. Don't you sit there in
buckle
my
up,
house.
my friend.
Don't sit in my house quoting this film to me. Who do you think you are?
Come into my home.
Come into my home, making me watch this. Sitting there enjoying it.
Yeah.
But the mention of Hoobastank, I was like, oh, right, this is going off. But if you recall in episode 1, we did set down some ground rules and I did persevere.
Every minute.
I had to take a few breaks because, I was just like...
yeah, just like a stewing ball of rage.
Yeah. I felt impotent rage. And I know I was kind of Facebook messaging you through it, but I just felt I felt angry, and there was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't direct my anger anywhere.
for as angry as you were getting, and for as verbose as you were being about your anger, I think that my favourite message that you sent me while you were watching it was a simple, unpunctuated "I hate you." I think that
I didn't feel at that point you were worthy of punctuation. To be honest, I'm like...
Right, let's get into this. So in the opening scene, we do encounter we have a short-lived encounter with one Taylor Fisher.
Yeah, and I don't like to use this word, but she is a cunt. Off the bat.
Or as...
Because she likes Hoobastank.
Well, as she just... you've gone for a different a different noun.
Yeah, but I think
she goes for bitch, which stands for beauty, intelligence, talent, charisma, Hoobastank.
See, I mean, that's annoying.
See, I think that's funny, and I think, but
okay.
and this is where we're going with this as well. Though I think that, like, I understand. I think that I have a reasonable kind of background of your loathing for this now.
Mm-hmm.
I think, so I don't think that us coming out of this an hour later and you being like, "Oh, I love this now," is achievable.
Well, who knows?
I mean, like. I do.
This could be an interest. This could be a real interesting hour. You could debate this as well as God. What's his name? God, the Canadian debater.
Oh, my favourite character.
Yeah, you could debate it to his level and turn me around completely.
Maybe, but I think that what I would say is, I think that what I'm going to try and do is kind of make a case for the fact for why I think that this is an objectively good film and the things that I kind of admire about it.
Right. Okay, that's fine.
So I think that the film kind of does. It sets out its stuff from the off. I'm sure you'll agree with me that I think that anything that you find off-putting about the opening 5 minutes of it,
it doesn't get. It's not going to get any easier.
Nothing in the intervening 85 is going to change your mind.
Yeah.
And also, I think that if you get on board with it at that point, the chances are that you'll probably be into it for the rest of the film. I think that as an opening sequence, I would say it's a good mission statement as regards like giving you the kind of tools you need to make the decision for whether or not this is something you're going to be into.
It's so bubblegum candy flossy from the start.
Yeah, I mean, like words on screen. It's heavy on the referencing from a
words
bunch
on
of
screen, text on screen, floating text flying around people's heads.
I mean, there's references to everything from Hoobastank to Facebook, Kesha, John Hughes. All of this is kind of a flying eye. I think that like it's
in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's a bit of a grab bag. At this point, and yeah, she kind of started like, so she's a high school age girl who storms around being a total arsehole to her entire family, basically before, and also talks briefly about the film within a film, which is Cinderella,
which I'll be honest with you, I would absolutely watch on its own.
Oh, I would watch the hell out of it.
Give me Cinderella, beauty scream.
Beauty scream, yes.
I don't want the rest of the film. I want more of that. Give me that.
You think that should be Joseph Kahn's next project?
It's going to be.
No, would you? I was saying no. Would you like that?
Oh,
to be the next project?
Jesus! I thought no.
So so she's a pretty reprehensible character. Breaks the third wall through the whole scene and cuts about and it's very. But like I say, I think it's a good microcosm of the whole film. It's winky. It's self-referential. Gold frap on the soundtrack.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah.
I think it sets out stuff pretty well. But she is unceremoniously murdered almost immediately.
Yeah. One thing I do want to say though, it's quite a well-made film from a technical perspective.
Yeah.
I think it's well shot. It's very well edited.
I agree, and I think that regardless of how you feel about the style, I think it commits to it.
Yeah, and Taylor's death is one such example of a well-made scene.
So when she gets her throat cut in kind of full view of the camera, then thrown out the window, and the camera kind of follows her down onto the roof of the car.
Spoilers.
For the opening 5 minutes, I guess. So like I say, I think it's a kind of best foot forward thing for the film, but also I think that it's a good embodiment of all the things that you might find annoying about it as well. And then it cuts immediately to Riley. Your kind of female protagonist, I think.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, she's a kind of shared protagonist, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe
with Clapton.
Yeah.
Fucking Clapton.
So we get the first meeting with Riley, and so she wakes up. And you kind of get the impression that it's deliberately supposed to be the antithesis of Taylor's like popular girl intro.
Of course, she's a kind of outcast, kind of misfit. She's very much a girl of a different time, living in a time that doesn't suit her really.
Yeah, or necessarily a time that possibly exists.
True.
But yeah, so we meet her, and you see the kind of the various problems that she has, and also the fact that above her bed she has a picture of the only person in the history of Grizzly Lake High School who is thought to be a bigger loser than her.
Is that the guy or the girl that sucked off the bear?
Yeah, it's the kind of unidentified girl who filleted the school mascot.
That fucking bear, by the way.
Yes, previously, we can get to that.
Oh, God almighty. A lot to talk about in here, but every part of it just drives me that little bit more off of you as a person.
Really? Is it as much as that?
I'm being harsh. Of course, Mitch, there's nothing that could put me off of you.
Oh, you're too kind. So she misses the bus, walks to school, gets mugged for her iPod by this kind of very smug hipster character who I'm assuming that you would find that exchange joyless and wholly unfunny.
It's like you were in the room.
I think that there's a certain kind of language to this film that I think is extremely divisive. Like when she says to the guy, she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, the majoring in Inuit literature and hipster rock doesn't replenish your trust fund."
Do you know what it reminds? Right, so it's puerile, right? The film's puerile, but in the worst way.
Okay.
I feel like it reminds me of one of those really bad American Pie sequels, like Bandcamp or the Naked Mile or whatever it is. Yeah, it reminds me of that.
American Pie Bandcamp, though.
I think that's got more to say.
It feels extremely uncharitable to me. So Riley makes her way to school, and at this point we get a kind of like what doubles up as kind of an opening credit sequence, and we get introduced to quite a lot of characters.
The opening credit sequence.
So what was your take on this with all the names appearing on kind of Coke cans,
I like it,
boards, things like that?
But done far, far better in Hard Ticket to Hawaii, if you've seen that.
I have not.
You should check it, Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Yeah, it's done far better in Hard Ticket to Hawaii, which is just like names stenciled on boxes in a warehouse. It's superb stuff.
So, after we meet a few, like I said, we get kind of like hurried, kind of very like Cliff Notesy introductions to a couple of characters, including Clapton Davis, Josh Hutcherson's Clapton Davis.
Clapton Davis, yeah. You hear more concept than reality. Oh, for fuck.
Was that the first point where you had to pause it and take a break?
I think the first time you meet Billy, just after the first encounter with Billy, I think was the first point I was like, right, that'll do for now.
Need a breather.
And I think that was about 10 minutes. The 10-minute mark.
So, like I say, after the sequence has happened, and you get into the actual conversations in the classroom.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes. This is something else that I think this is a reason why I think that this film rewards repeated viewings. I'm sure you don't agree, but like
twice as repeated, Mitch.
Twice as repeated, yeah. But like in the opening scene, you get, and in fact, before Riley even gets to school, there's a reference to UFOs and a guy on the TV, the newsreader, talking about unidentified things in the sky, things like that. And you get to the classroom sequence where somebody talks about the mascot bear's foot being full of
superconductive magnets.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So what I like about this is that there's foreshadowing being dropped left, right, and center here. But on first viewing, it just looks like nonsense. Because where it goes next, because it doesn't seem on the surface like slasher villains, time travel, time traveling bears, even aliens don't belong in the same film.
I wrote down slasher, sci-fi, body horror, body swap, time travel.
Yeah, and I think that like most of those things are alluded to in the first few minutes, and in a way that probably seems a little bit impenetrable. But I quite like the fact that it all eventually kind of comes good.
I don't know if it does, because the elements are so like I don't know. I hate this film.
I know you do. And then another style choice at this point, where Clapton Davis, archetypal cool kid, but also kind of a bit of a man of the people.
I liked his affinity for Roadhouse.
I'll bet you did.
Yeah, I feel that was a shared affinity that I shared with Clapton, was our love of Roadhouse.
Okay.
And our relative ambivalence to Steven Seagal.
Okay. Do you think that he was the character that you saw most of yourself in?
I would like to say yes, but I feel like I'm closer to Sander, which is troubling.
Oh. We can get to that. Yeah. But so Clapton is called into the office of Principal Dane Cook.
Dane Cook. I feel like this film exists purely so Dane Cook still got something to do. The best film Dane Cook has ever done is Mr. Brooks. He's great in Mr. Brooks.
I think that Dane Cook is great in this. I think he's good. I think it's like I think.
But he's just doing Dane Cook.
Yeah, but it's good dialogue. It's well delivered. All of the things about his character that seem kind of strange are eventually explained.
It's true, and it manages to wring a little bit of sympathy for him out of that, and pay off nicely for him, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I mean, it all has a point.
I think so. Personally, and like we can dig into the various like kind of when all the kind of mad threads in this film start converging. But rapid fire introduction after that to two of my favourite minor characters. So you've got Coach Cooper.
Coach Cooper is amazing.
I'm stunned that that guy has not seen more work off the back of this.
Yeah, I had a wee look on his IMDb. I mean, he's done some stuff, but I thought he was brilliant. I thought him, and I'm pretty sure the other guy you're going to talk about is God.
Yeah, who's debating rightly about vegetarianism.
Yeah, without a doubt, the two best characters in the film.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would say that like I think the fact that you're introduced to both of them kind of in almost back-to-back sequences that are both very, very funny.
Yeah, Coach Cooper did force a smile into my tired old cracked cheeks.
Yeah, see?
And God, I was just blown away by his better with fucking hell, certainly better with his words than I've been right articulate. Ha! Yeah, yes.
There we go.
Boom.
No, his debating technique is pretty out there. It's one of my favourite moments in the film, I think, when he kind of hammers. My favourite thing is vegetarians like this girl who's only wearing one shoe. I'm a big fan of that. But so there's one thing, and we get to after that, and after the debate sequence, we get to something about it that I think might age slightly worse. Okay. Which is so. You remember that in the first introduction to Riley, she tries to kill herself and she gets distracted by a song coming on the radio.
Yes.
And then shortly after that, there's quite a lot of fourth wall breaking.
Very much so.
You get like people break the third wall all the time. But yeah, there's a lot of fourth wall breaking going on in the film, and she does it right before she tries to kill herself again. She tries to hang herself in the lobby, and I think like it kind of and it's the first time this has happened on a watch, but. It kind of rankled with me a little bit, just exactly how flippant it is about the fact she's trying to kill herself all the time.
Yeah, that did. I feel like, given kind of where we're at today.
Yeah, I think
it felt very.
I think it feels very much like of its time. I think that the people are a lot smarter in the way they talk about those things.
Yeah, I feel. Look at us. This is a podcast where we talk about issues.
Yeah,
that's what we've become, Mitch. And for a film that quite happily prides itself on insensitivity, yeah, you're right. It rankles.
Yeah, and I think it's probably about the only thing. It's probably about the only choice in there that doesn't sit right with me on that level.
Well, there's many choices that don't quite sit right with me.
But what I would say is possibly
particularly there's a joke about Bronson Pinchot at one point, and I'm like, is anyone going to know who Bronson Pinchot is?
Oh yeah, that was a reach.
Yeah, like to the uninitiated out there, Bronson Pinchot is Serge in the Beverly Hills Cop films.
I think that I quite enjoy how scattergun the film's references are though.
I don't know.
I don't want to.
And I guess even that kind of relates back because Bronson Pinchot is very much of a time, and it kind of plays into the whole time travel aspect. And that was what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, but there must have been somebody better than Bronson Pinchot to make a joke about. there simply had to be. Like, there had to be.
I think that the fact that there's such a prominent time travel element, I mean, I really enjoy it, and I quite like the fact that the references in the film genuinely span about 30 years. But I think that you're probably letting yourself off the hook a little bit with your referencing being a little bit erratic. Riley has a wee standoff with Cinderella there, who counterintuitively, or kind of in what seems like a bit of a waste of effort, Cinderella tries to kill Riley during her suicide attempt. Which feels a little bit of a wasted effort, really.
I would say so. I'd just stand back, cross my arms, lean on my axe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just let it happen.
But yeah, then
you miss the spectacle.
Well, this is it.
I suppose if it's a spectacle that you crave, then yeah, by all means, kill her with an axe.
And yeah, I think that's what we were going for there. But she gets herself free and escapes into what is the standoff between Billy and Clapton outside the school. So
Billy, the raging guy.
Furious Billy, the ex-girlfriend of the ex-boyfriend, should I say?
He's like Vic. He's like Vic from Friday the 13th.
Vic from Friday the 13th.
But less likeable.
Yeah, he's an absolute ball of fury. Yeah, but yeah, that's a good comparator. Actually, I meant to compare Taylor Fisher to Violet. Actually,
yeah, similar comparison.
Yeah, but so Billy, he is the ex-boyfriend of Ione, who we get briefly introduced to during the credit sequence, who's now dating Clapton.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I think that this scene bears mentioning because I thought there was a couple of really funny references in here.
Right.
When there was the arguments going back and forth about fighting styles.
Yeah.
Which you spoke about, like Swayze
and
Seagal.
Mm-hmm.
But also the you're talking about expendable characters, and then it cut to a guy who was wearing a red shirt and his head was cut out of the shot, so it was just a red shirt. Explaining about how expendable characters die. Quite enjoyed that.
Actually, Billy is so raging the whole time, but it kind of is explained away in a part of the film that I think is actually one of the most effective parts in the film, and certainly spoke to me more as a kind of body horror Cronenberg fan.
I don't think anyone sees this coming when it happens.
No. But it is bewildering. But it does manage to wring out a little bit more sympathy for a character who, from the first time you see him, you're like, get this fucking asshole off my screen.
Yeah, because like his screen presence, I would say his screen presence is quite obnoxious to begin with.
Oh, absolutely. The next time you go to the dentist for an x-ray, it'll be a picture of your head flying off.
Yeah.
They're like, alright, chill the fuck out, man. And this is all because Clapton's dating Ione.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my god, man.
This is high school.
What a loser.
You know?
What a fucking loser.
But yeah, I think that it's an interesting one in as much as he's extremely unsympathetic to begin with, and a little bit later on it's explained that one of the causes for his rage is the fact that, or the consequences of the fact that he has fly's blood.
He has fly's blood, yeah. He touched a meteor.
That's right, touched a meteor.
Like Stephen King in Creepshow. And rather than turning into a plant, he's now a fly man. Yeah. Not in the Scottish way use of the word fly man either. He is part fly.
Yeah, no, genuinely. Yeah.
he vomits acid like Seth Brundle, and dissolves stuff all over the place, and spines and wings. Yeah, he's got a lot. He's more fly than Seth Brundle.
Yeah, and in a kind of cutaway we get the fact that it kind of brought shame on his family.
Understandably. But his dad hides his affliction by encasing his hand in a television set.
Yes.
What the fuck's that about?
I don't know, but I think it's really funny. I think, like, for some reason, this really appeals to me. The fact that rather than give him kind of some sort of kind of industrial strength reinforced glove,
right,
he just masks it by sticking a TV
Power
set to his
glove.
hand. Yeah, exactly. Rather than that, he just sticks a TV set to his hand. For some reason, that makes me laugh.
Why didn't they just... I would have preferred a more kind of cyber aspect where his arm becomes a telly.
Okay, as opposed to just, like, sticking a TV to his hand.
Putting a fly's arm into a TV and walking about with a TV on your foot. No, what? See, this is the problem.
This is the problem.
This is the fucking problem with this. Joseph Kahn's thrown everything at this.
Yeah,
and only a fraction of it sticks, I think.
See, I think that we've already spoken about the elements that I think end up serving a wider purpose. In a lot of ways, the Billy Flies Blood thing doesn't really.
Yeah.
But it's also an extremely satisfying story in and of itself, I think.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a wee bit more of that. I would have liked some redemption for Billy.
Yeah, because he is. I mean, like, shortly after that, he's pretty unceremoniously.
He does wind up with a telly on his hand again.
During this, scuffle when he's murdered.
Which must have been quite galling for him, I can only imagine, briefly.
There's no way to go.
There's no way to go. No, not at all. It really is probably the only scene in the film where I was like, yeah, I could get into this. Aside from the brief glimpses of Cinderella.
And I think that just around this time in the film, there's actually a standoff or a kind of hunt and chase sequence between Riley and Cinderella, which involves like a dog, a swing set, a swimming pool, jumping over the fence, that kind of thing. One of the sequences in the film I like the most. Yeah,
to me, it does similar things to like I guess like The Final Girls or The Babysitter did, where it kind of thumbs its nose at slasher films and the ridiculousness of the slasher film. And I say that as a proudly card-carrying slasher film fan.
I was just gonna say, I was like, how did that work for you as a kind of nod to all those kind of things?
As a nod to those things, I got what it was going for.
Okay.
I feel that the other two films I just mentioned kind of do it in a better way.
I'm kind of eking some compliments out of you here.
It's hard to sit through a whole film and find no redeeming qualities, because there are things about it that are likeable. Like I say, it's pretty well shot and it's brilliantly edited again, and there are moments that work, but for me those moments take up such a small portion of the runtime that they're kind of overshadowed by the rest of it. It's like the longest, most irritating music video ever made.
Which I think if you're not going to like the film, I think that stylistically that's not that surprising, given that his entire background, or almost his entire background at that point, was a music video director, which is still true.
Yeah, he did videos for Rob Zombie. He did "Say My Name" by Destiny's Child.
He did a bunch for of the newer Taylor Swift ones.
He did Muse videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did the video for Knights of Sidonia by Muse.
Ah.
And crucially, he did the video for Everybody brackets Backstreet's Back by the Backstreet Boys.
No way. That's a great video.
I feel like he's called in quite a few favours as well in terms of the soundtrack, because a lot of these bands pop up on the soundtrack.
Yeah, the licensing for the music for this must have been would have been through the roof, I think, if you weren't in a position to do that. And one character we haven't hit on yet is Sander. Kind of, it seems to be like Riley's kind of best friend.
I don't think they are friends.
See,
I don't think they're friends at all. Riley's a fucking creepy sex pest.
Well, so Sander is...
Oh, sorry, shit, yeah, Sander, is a creepy fucking sex pest.
I completely agree. Like, I was thinking about this, and it was one of the things that kind of... I was saying that there's certain elements of this don't quite sit right with me now, and that's one of them, whereas kind of he comes across kind of from the off. It's sort of reprehensible and a little bit predatorial.
Yeah, and he's what, 17, 18, supposed to be in this, but he should be fucking locked up.
I know, it's good.
He's a danger to himself, and a danger to women,
yeah,
and a danger to everyone, frankly, as the story will transpire.
Yeah. But I think that it's an interesting thing, and I think we should probably just spoil this up immediately about the fact that obviously the principal antagonist turns out to be Sander.
Yes.
And I think that felt less surprising as a revelation, because I couldn't figure out if I was supposed to think that he was funny. Because I think that it would have been more surprising if his character had been more sympathetic, or somebody that you were supposed to connect with a little more.
I thought he was just, from the minute he was on camera in that science class, I was just like, oh, get this fucking guy out of here.
Yeah, get him out of here. Yeah.
I remember watching it the first time and thinking, I hope he dies. Not the actor.
No.
Not the actor.
No, he's probably alright.
Yeah, certainly the character. He's getting paid to do a job, but the character, I was like, get this fucking guy out of here. Kill him first.
Yeah, no, I think that's...
I'll kill him.
That's fair. Because, because I would say that in a film where I've already established that Coach Cooper and Gord are my two favourite characters.
Yes, of course.
Sam's comfortably my least favourite. So, just to skip ahead a little bit, so yeah, we have a party where there's quite a lot of drinking goes on, kind of things, and then we lose Billy.
Yeah, there's a lot of vomit.
Quite a lot of vomit, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of regurgitation, reverse peristalsis from the get-go of this film. There is multiple instances of people throwing up.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a lot of them. We have a wardrobe malfunction of Riley's, which is the consequence, by the way, of more sketchy behaviour from Sander.
Yeah.
But this is
sexually assaults her, essentially, at a party.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, yeah.
See, this is what I'm talking about! Lock him up! Lock him away!
Oh, I'm 100%...
Fucking hell.
I'm 100% in favour of
he's
a
kind of wee creep that shoots a school up.
Wow.
Put it out there.
Oh, let's be fair, considering he turned out to be the villain in a slasher film, you're not a million miles off the mark.
There you go.
Yeah, fair assessment.
Thanks very much.
But so we lose Billy at that point, and also like I say, Riley effectively, like I say, is kind of harassed, and
yes.
But there's like partial nudity, it's called in film, and in what is a hasty moment from Principal Dane Cook, kind of assumes that somebody amongst the main group of protagonists is responsible for the murder. Puts them in a Breakfast Club style all-day detention. Yeah.
Now, the film's called Detention.
Yeah.
There's no detention until round about the 50th minute.
There or thereabouts, yeah.
Cut to the chase. Get there quicker.
Oh, I disagree.
Get there quicker. Make the film 40 minutes long. Keep the 3 scenes I like. Justify the name Detention. Yeah.
So, when they're in detention... And again, this kind of fairly rapid fire exchange between all the characters, and I think it's pretty funny. But again, the kind of language of this suits me, and I'm getting the impression that it doesn't for you.
I'm not saying that it's the language. To me, it's the whole presentation. Hello?
Oh.
To me, yeah, it's the whole presentation of the thing. I don't have a problem particularly with the language, except that to me, it's just a bunch of people shouting, suck my dick and eat my shit and smell my farts. Like, it's not like...
See,
that's pretty much the whole script.
I think you're doing that a massive disservice there.
There's a few lines which are quite clever and witty, and they're delivered in that rapid fire way that no one actually speaks.
Yeah, but I mean, if you make that your rule, then you're immediately like ruling out pretty much anything that Aaron Sorkin or Woody Allen's ever done.
I don't agree.
Because there's an intellectual self-satisfaction to all of those people.
I'd love to see Aaron Sorkin just writing a script that was full of suck my dick and eat my farts jokes.
I'd love to hear his take on that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a problem with the language. To me, it's the whole package. It's gimmicky, and it's self-aware and meta to a point that I just wanted to strangle myself.
Wow. Right, so we're gonna have to watch ourselves here in terms of how we actually handle where the story goes from here, because this I think is where
it goes bananas.
Yeah, I
think it's enough to say that it goes bananas.
I think it would threaten to lose people if you were still.
It stands a good chance of still doing that.
Yeah, but because at this point we have the time traveling bear element, which if you haven't seen the film, I understands probably makes no sense, and it barely makes sense to people that have seen the film.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me.
So
there's not room in that bear for 3 people.
Do you not think so?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
It feels like a kind of it seems like a fairly glib gripe to have, given the rest of it.
It was just one thing that struck me. I was like, they can't get 3 people in that bear.
But at this point, inexplicably in detention, so you have this montage where like basically they happen on this guy in detention, Elliot Fink.
Yes.
Who has been there for
19 years.
19 years. So you get a montage, which again is just kind of very full of what would presumably be music that would be fairly expensive to license. You have a montage that includes between product placement and bands.
Yeah,
you have Pussycat Dolls, The Bravery,
all sorts of stuff.
50 Cent, Hole, Backstreet Boys, jumpsuits, Von Dutch caps. It's but basically they're trying to do effectively a retrospective between say 1992 and now. Or then, I guess, 2011. So the explanation for Elliot Fink being in detention for that long is kind of introduced through the time travel kind of strand in the film, which is introduced at this point via.
You sound like you're losing your way with this. You're trying to explain it, and it's like you're like, and I think
which comes from
this, but happens. And
it's introduced by a very abrupt cut to Planet Starclaw.
Okay,
where a bear climbs aboard a spaceship.
See.
For reasons best known to himself.
See, this is.
I'm gonna ask a question. Is this the element of this that tested your patience the most?
I don't have a problem with films with time travel in them.
But was the kind of abrupt introduction of a time traveling bear who was also from another planet the thing that kind of? Do you feel like this was the straw that broke the camel's back, or was the camel infirm already at this point?
My mother takes great enjoyment in whenever there's I like James Bond films, and my mum my whole life took great pleasure in watching James Bond films with me, and she fucking hates them.
Okay.
But she takes great pleasure in delivering the line, "That could never happen," over and over, constantly throughout every James Bond film. And I feel that part of that's ingrained on me now somehow, because I was watching this and I was like, that could never happen. Time travel as a thing on its own, I can get on board with. Bears exist. I've seen one. What's the other thing? Aliens.
Who knows?
Open to the idea.
Yeah.
I'm open to the idea, Mitch. Put those 3 things together and I'm like, right, you've gone too far. You have gone too far. You have taken this too far.
Much less the invention of a planet Starclaw, which is apparently populated entirely by regulation Earth bears.
I also don't have a problem with made-up planets.
Made-up planets are fine.
I was all for Planet 10 during the Buckaroo Banzai days.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a montage.
Yeah, I would say
a 90-minute montage.
I would say I would accept that as a criticism.
Yeah, but it kind of hobbles along, and then it gets to this point, and I'm like, right, that's it. I've sat through so much nonsense in this film, and now I've got a time traveling bear.
Yep.
And I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I say, I think that I have a kind of one of the things I like about this film is that every strand in it, regardless of how nonsensically explained it is, it all eventually serves a purpose. In terms of kind of serving the narrative, it kind of feels like every
did the Billy one go anywhere?
No, but I did say that earlier. But I think that's just like a satisfying story in its own right.
Right. Okay.
But I think that for pretty much everything in it that needs explained, there is an explanation, and I think that the criticisms aren't necessarily with the story, but much as just as disagreeing or not being particularly satisfied with how something's explained. But I quite like the fact that every plot point that needs an explanation is explained in the most ludicrous way possible.
That's a good word.
Yeah,
ludicrous.
But I think that it's ludicrousness. I think that you're kind of encouraged to get on board with, and I don't think it kids you on that it's anything other than that from the beginning.
No, I mean, and I do think that you're right. You either throw your hand in from the get-go with this film and enjoy it, go for the ride, as it were. But I think you will know very fucking early on if this is a film for you.
Absolutely. Like I say, after the Taylor Fisher sequence at the beginning, I think you'll know.
Within seconds. You will know before Taylor dies. You will know pretty much from the minute she's introduced on the screen. You are going to know whether or not you're going to like this film.
Yeah, and I think that is a good thing.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Right. I think that we get to a point at this point in the story. It gets extremely difficult to unpack it strand by strand. And I think that at this point we're gonna have to assume a little bit of knowledge.
Okay.
Because
I've got no knowledge.
Because but you've seen it. Yeah, you know, it's like you know how it unfolds. And I think that if we're gonna try and pick apart every last machination of it, then I think that we could be here all night. But yeah, so I think that trying to unpack this, like I said, trying to unpack this scene by scene at this point gets a little difficult.
Yeah,
because at this point there's like body swapping elements. You get the kind of Principal Dane Cook storyline where his kind of surliness in the present day is explained through flashback form, and his kind of unrequited yearning for Ione's mother back in 1992. That's kind of thing. So, and it all kind of, I think it does all pull together in a way that is kind of convincing.
Now, I will give you that. It all does come together, and it ties it up nicely, I suppose, in a kind of nice little bow at the end. I just didn't enjoy the journey.
Okay, which I think is understandable, but basically, so Sander is outed as being the killer,
Cinderella,
if you like, yeah. And ultimately, we've got Riley and Clapton get together, and of course, predictably, it is revealed that both of our favorite characters, Gord is actually from a species of vegetable alien life form that first took the shape of a Canadian,
like
and
troll?
is now. Yeah, and is now... Yeah, yes! He is like Troll too. And then, has come to America to wreak vengeance for all of the atrocities that they've committed against plants. Mm-hmm. Which, again, I think is pretty funny.
Which are myriad.
yeah, they are. They are. Over the years. Every harvest a massacre.
Yeah, that's... we should weep for the plants.
Hopefully, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, like I say, I think that I don't think that the film stumbles over the finish line, but I think that if we were trying to talk about every last element that gets us there, I think that we'd be in for we'd have a little bit of a fight in our hands. So I think that like the kind of the key points for the reasons why I think that this film is undeserving of the kind of bad rap that it gets.
Now, I did a very little, I'll be honest, I kind of fleeting dip into what the kind of critical reception of this was.
Yeah.
Now, was it pretty poor? I mean, it's currently straddling a 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb, which isn't terrible.
It's sitting on sub 40% Rotten Tomatoes.
Right, okay. Rotten Tomatoes, that bastion of...
But yeah, that's super convincing and always accurate review aggregator. But I think, I think that it's certainly divisive. I mean, look no further than the opposite sides of this table.
I would love to watch my mother watch this.
Actually,
she'd flip her fucking lid, man.
I rewatched this while I was last weekend. I was at home. Mm-hmm. I was visiting my parents, and I had it on, and my dad came in right when it got to the sequence where Gord was debating.
Right.
And my dad was massively amused by it, which I was really happy with. I had a feeling it would be. But I'm also equally happy that he didn't watch any of the rest of it.
I remember Billy in the last episode said something about, is this what you're into now?
Yeah, exactly. I think it would have been that.
I mean, is it supposed to be cool? I mean, is this what people like?
See, like, I think that there's definitely a question of who the audience... Like, actually, there's a question of who this is for, which I think is a question that you posed to Billy about Buckaroo Banzai. Uh-huh. And I would answer in the exact same way, which if you asked him that when you said, who's this for, he said me.
Well...
And I kind of feel like that about it. But I think that the things that I like about it, I think that it's full of ideas. Of
ideas.
Of which I think that none are underdeveloped. I think that every strand that is introduced is pulled through to completion.
You think this film was just so?
Yeah. I think, but I think that I don't think it ever introduces something that it doesn't at least try to explain. And maybe they don't all serve the wider narrative, but the ones that don't work on their own, which is one point I would make. I would say, like I say, I also quite like the fact that I think that it uses its own weirdness as a form of narrative cleverness. Because when you watch it the first time round, a lot of stuff in it sounds like nonsense. If you watch it again when you know where it goes, you realise that basically it's using the fact that the combination of elements in it is so implausible to foreshadow in a way that you won't notice. Which again, I think is kind of fairly, not something I can think of other examples of, like, very readily. And I think that also kind of like I can understand grievances. I know you don't have one with this, but I know that I can understand the problems people have with the kind of style of it and the feel of it.
Yeah.
But I think that the way that it's shot matches the way that it's told, and it matches the pacing because it's like fairly breathlessly paced. I think it's fair to say. But it's also like, and I would say that I'd be.
But yeah, you say that, but I felt it drag.
Really? I think that objectively, I think. Well, I say objectively, obviously, extremely subjectively because it's my opinion. But like, I think that when I watched it again, the only point where I felt like it threatens to sag is kind of the early stages of the detention sequence when you're first introduced to the time traveling bear element, because I think that that's where it adds another layer of complexity / ridiculousness, but also you really have to fight with the sense that it makes to the wider story. I would say if there's a point where I think that it looks like it might stumble, I think it's there. Right. And I think that if there's a point where on multiple watches or on this rewatch, where like I say, it had been a couple of years, I've seen a lot more films in that time, and it's like when I rewatched it back, I think that that was the point where I was kind of like, ugh. Is this going to completely derail here? And I don't think it does. But I would say that was the point of it where I felt like it threatened to lose me. I would admit that much. But I think that, like I say, I think that the entire way it's put together and the way it's shot matches... Because I don't think it's unfair to say... I would accept it as a criticism if you think that it's like a scatterbrained film. In that it introduces a lot of elements in a kind of very, like, in a seemingly random way. But I think that the way it's put together kind of...
To me, it's more a stylistic thing than feeling that the narrative doesn't work or the narrative doesn't go anywhere. For me, it's purely, I think, a stylistic thing.
As in, your problem lies with the style of it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay. Predominantly, my problem lies in the style of it, my problem lies in the dialogue and the way the dialogue's delivered.
Is it all just a little bit too... is it kind of... Because I am quite happy to admit that this film is full of lines of dialogue that no high school-age person would ever realistically say.
Yeah.
I don't think that it necessarily feels ridiculous in universe, or like I think that everyone is a little bit too smart too much of the time.
I just thought a lot of them were absolute wankers.
Oh, that's definitely also true.
And I was just like, oh, shut up! When they were going on about, suck my dick, eat my farts. No, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that kind of humour.
Are either of those two direct quotes?
They are from the script I'm currently working on. But no, it's more the whole aesthetic of it. I felt that it rubs me up the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I think it did from the first time I saw it. And like I did go into it with an open mind, and I thought, right, come on, I've got to go here. And like I say, there are things I took away from it, where I felt like, you know, it is well shot and it is well edited. The soundtrack's fucking brilliant. I've not stopped singing "Mbop" all day.
Yeah.
That was a really offensive pee noise, a really aggressive pee noise I made there, so I'm sorry to the listeners for that.
And for anyone listening in headphones,
for anyone whose speakers have just broken. I don't know, maybe I'm just old.
I don't know.
I'm just old. I'm old.
You're not that old.
This is the film that's made me accept that. It's made me accept that I was too old for it the first time I saw it. And I'm certainly too old for it now.
I think that there's something to be said for a film that makes you come to hurtle to that kind of crushing existential realization.
Today I wore a cardigan.
Oh, lovely.
So there you go.
That wasn't weather appropriate at all.
Gone was the hoodie, on went the cardigan.
My concluding argument for why I think that this is objectively good is that I think that in a film that is teeming with characters, and kind of strong personalities, there's very little waste in characters. Again, I think that virtually everyone that is introduced serves a wider purpose, and also in a lot of ways has a decently compelling backstory of their own. You know, I mean, and whether or not those backstories are ridiculous, like I mean, like Gord could be a funny character that's thrown away one time, as it turns out.
The black girl, kind of goth black girl.
Oh, yeah, Mimi.
Yeah.
I was. That was the.
I don't know if maybe I missed something.
No, I agree. I would say that's the only one I can think of or
the black guy that then sings in the band. Did I miss something by him?
Well, I mean, I think that was just him overcoming his own shyness. Because remember when
was there a point? I was watching this with my headphones on, so as not to annoy my wife because she would fucking hate this as well. But I'm sure at one point they're in the corridor of the school and the black guy moves and there's a weird robotic noise.
Oh wow. I don't know.
Is he some kind of android?
That would explain certainly.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No, but in the detention scene, he says, "I'm not the killer. I'm just boring."
Yeah.
because they kind of naturally suspect him because he's the quietest.
He's a robot. Ash is a goddamn robot. Yeah, I'm sure there's like a mechanical.
That's kind of intriguing.
That's my bad robot.
But no, I think that I think that going from that to his the performance of Mbop that he does towards the end, I think that his arc is him kind of coming into his own, coming out of his shell, if you like. I think the only character in this that feels like isn't really there for anything is probably the Mimi character. But apart from that, I think that everyone seems to be kind of pulling towards a wider goal. And the traits in certain people that seem kind of ridiculous or weird, like you kind of have to wonder why Principal Dane Cook, Principal Verge, is so jaded and so mad.
I would have preferred if he was just called Principal Dane Cook.
How good would it have been? But, no, like, but again, that's explained eventually as well.
Just call me my character. What's his name? Verge? No. Just I'm Dane Cook.
And Principal Dane Cook. It's like Charlie Sheen's character always being called Charlie and stuff. That happens a lot. But no, yeah, I think that like, that kind of thing. That's eventually.
I feel like that's easier explained away though. I feel like yeah,
there's a whole.
Otherwise, I feel like if you're not calling Charlie, his mind is elsewhere. Like if you try to call him by a character name, he's just like.
Fair. It's fair.
It's the only way to bring him back to earth.
Yeah, but you know what I mean though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's very little. I think that regardless of what you think of it or whether or not certain elements of it rub you the wrong way, I think that there's nothing in there by accident. But yeah, in summary, I think that Detention it's bursting with creativity. It doesn't throw away any of its ideas. It doesn't. Okay. It doesn't introduce a strand and abandon it. I think that virtually everything in there is serving a wider purpose in one way or another, and the only one that doesn't is the Billy Flyblood story, which I think we can agree is one of the
as a highlight. Is actually a highlight.
So like you couldn't. Like, it's throwaway in the sense that it doesn't serve the story, but it's not throwaway in terms of how it serves the film.
Yeah, and I guess it's not throwaway in how it serves Billy to an extent because it does like I say, it does ring a little bit of sympathy for a character,
and otherwise unlikable character,
utter cock.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, those basically are those are the bare bones of my argument. That's the takeaway from this part of the presentation. This is why I think that Detention, whether you like it or not, is objectively a good film.
Well, what I'm going to say is, I've listened to you.
Yeah,
I've heard you. Mm-hmm. And I actually do feel you've made a pretty compelling argument for it.
I am not expecting to come away with a victory as such here.
No, and you would be right in that. But what I will say is that you've certainly made me look at it in a different light to the way I was maybe looking at it. I was maybe blinded by hate.
Maybe.
And yeah, maybe there is more to it, but I think all told, it does come down to a stylistic thing for me. Aesthetic difference, perhaps, between you and me. And yeah, it just rubbed me up the wrong way from pretty much from frame one.
From word go, yeah.
This is going to go down now as one of those ones where we could not reach an accord.
No, but that's fine. I think that realistically, I think that I would have been setting the bar too high. I think that
Well, you certainly did pick. It's certainly polarizing.
Yeah, and I think that also I completely by accident picked something that I didn't realize that you already really didn't like.
Yeah.
So I had a fight in my hands from the off.
You know, when you told me, or when you started dropping the hints on when we were recording the minisode, it wasn't even. I couldn't imagine someone liking it. I couldn't. In my head, Detention was never a film that would feature on this because
you couldn't imagine anyone having the affection.
Someone having affection for it. Like I said to you, I can't imagine you sitting watching this with a wee smile on your face and like just sitting bathed by the glow of the telly watching this film. It just strikes me as completely bewildering. And it still does now. Now. And although you've made a compelling case, I just I've watched it twice and I don't think I'll watch it again.
Yeah. That's reasonable. But I would say that I will settle for you coming away from it thinking that there's more to it than you did before.
You bastard.
I'll take that. I'm happy with that. But no, thanks a lot for joining us. And don't forget, of course, if you want to pitch in with your thoughts on the film.
I think I would really like to know, actually, other people's thoughts on this film.
Yeah, it's not often that we come across. It's not often. I would say our tastes are pretty comparable a lot of the time. So it's not often that we come out on other ends of the spectrum like this.
Yeah, I just want to hear from other people who like it, and I guess conversely, other people who don't.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to hear about it. I'd like for this to be the film that opens up a massive dialogue between people that listen, but I just really want to know what hear what other people have to say about it.
And there's loads of ways you can do that. If you want to get in touch, and we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, good segue.
Yeah. For Facebook, I'm getting better at this. For Facebook and Instagram, you can get us at Strong Language Violent Scenes. You can tweet us at Strong Violent PC, and you can also email us at stronglanguageviolentscenes@gmail.com. So if you want to get in touch, 5-word reviews, comments, feedback of any kind, please do feel encouraged to do that. And so we'll be back minisode on Monday.
On Monday, yep, and that'll be on Stitcher and iTunes and of course Podbean. One thing I do want to say far about this whole process so far is I'm really enjoying hearing from people who have hunted out the films that we've been talking about, and they have maybe watched films that they haven't seen before or that they wouldn't normally watch at all. That's a really kind of gratifying thing to hear so far.
Yeah,
and, because of us two talking shit about films, people are willing to take a dive into watching something that's maybe a little bit out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that's kind of obviously, like, we like arguing about films, we like arguing with people about films, but I think that if it is spurring people to go and seek out these films and watch them, and kind of if it's getting people to watch more stuff and join the discussion, then I think that's great.
And the amount of people who've messaged me about Demon from Friday the 13th.
No way! I love it.
Yeah, a lot of people are loving Demon.
I've had a couple of people message me saying that they listened to the first episode, the Friday the 13th episode, without having seen the film. Mm-hmm. And off the back of it, they were like, yeah, I'm going to seek it out, kind of thing. So I quite like the fact that not only did you sell it to me, you sold it to people who had no interest in the franchise.
Yeah, and more of that, please, guys. And even if it means you have to watch Detention, then, I would say check it out purely to know what the hell we're talking about. There seems to be a real kind of pattern developing of weird... Do you know, again, actually going back, Detention is also like Scott Pilgrim.
I thought this, actually, because Billy made what I think is a pretty fair comparison between Buckaroo Banzai and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And I think that it does apply here as well. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cues that are similar stylistically. But join in the discussion, and there's no statute of limitations on talking about the films as well. Don't feel like because a week's gone by, you can't talk about the Friday the 13th episode or whatever.
I think there's always time to talk about Friday the 13th Part 5. And the discussion never ends on Buckaroo Banzai.
It doesn't. No.
There's always something there.
I get the impression, had he not had to shoot off, I think that you, me and Billy could have sat and spoken about it for 2 more hours.
Absolutely.
We love hearing from people, and thank you to everybody who's been in touch with kind words so far, people that have been spreading the word, and a couple of people really have been doing that.
Yeah, there's a few people who've been really, really pushing it, and thank you.
Yeah, big thanks to those people. Thanks a lot for taking the time and showing the interest.
Yeah.
Because early on, that's vital. And speaking of that, we are on the iTunes store now. Mm-hmm. And if you're liking, subscribing, if you want to leave us a rate and review, that'd be great.
On those stars there, those cheeky wee 5 stars.
Yeah, go on.
And there might be more announcements coming soon for other podcast providers.
Yeah, they're in the works. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, stay tuned. Like I say, minisode upcoming on Monday. We'll have a guest announcement and a film announcement.
Yes, indeed.
Coming in. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, don't forget, it's not normal for people's semen to glow in the dark. Good night.
It's not? Oh, okay.
You've been listening to Strong Language and Violent Scenes with Andy Stewart and Mitch Bain. Strong Language and Violent Scenes theme by Mitch Bain, production and artwork by Andy Stewart. Find us on Stitcher, iTunes and Podbean.